Hey, gorgeous souls, and welcome to the Midlife Purpose Project. I'm your host, Katie Farinas, a yoga teacher and soul purpose coach. And just like you, I'm navigating the wild, beautiful, and sometimes messy terrain of midlife. This is the space where we unpack the shifts happening in our bodies, minds, and souls. We're diving deep into the questions that rise up when everything seems to be changing. Think of this as your toolkit for making sense of this powerful phase of life. We'll have honest conversations, belly laughs, maybe a few tears, and a whole lot of growth. We'll hear from experts on topics that matter to you in midlife, and I'll share yogic philosophy that has been helping humans live with more skill and ease for centuries. Because here's the truth. Everything you've been through, every challenge, every joy, every heartbreak, has been training you for this. You're not broken, you're not lost, you're stepping into your power. So come on in, embrace the mess, the beauty, and the absolute magic of midlife. Let's journey together. All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Midlife Purpose Project. Before we get started, I just want to remind you that we are coming close to my masterclass, Finding Peace in Turbulent Times. It is going to be on May the 2nd. So this episode is going to be releasing on the 25th. So that's actually 1 week left to register for the Finding Peace in Turbulent Times. It is a free 90-minute masterclass. It's an opportunity for us to come together as a community to share with each other about what we're struggling with in this really difficult time, and to learn skills, tools, wisdom that can help us navigate these really challenging times we're living in. If you listened to my episode last week, it was about the number one thing that blocks us, the number one thing that blocks us from finding our Dharma or living our purpose and feeling like we're living a really joyful, impactful, purpose-filled, meaningful life. And that is because much of the time we're living in fight or flight. We have a dysregulated nervous system. And when that happens, we really can't access these higher states of being, things like creativity, inner peace, interconnectedness, inner knowing. All of these higher states of being are offline and inaccessible when we're primarily living much of our day in either the fight or flight response or in a really overwhelmed state of being. And so that's the number one thing blocking people from accessing their purpose. So take a listen to that episode if you haven't, but come to the masterclass. It is all about how we can live with more peace, freedom, ease, love, connection by calming our nervous system, and really recognizing that we are the peace, that peace always exists within us. No matter what is going on around us, we have access to peace because we are peace. So if you sign up, if you can't make it, but you sign up anyway, I will send you the recording. And if people really like it and they want to do more workshops like these, I will absolutely be open to it. This is a beta test to see how much you guys like doing something like this. The link will be in the show notes, and I really hope to see you there. Okay, on today's episode, we are going to talk about something else that often blocks us from moving toward our Dharma or our soul's purpose. If you've listened to any of my other episodes that are specifically on the concept of Dharma, and I can link some of those in the show notes in case anything I say today is a little bit confusing. I talk about two things related to your Dharma, and that is your essence, right? That's your soul's purpose. That is your true Dharma. And then the expression of that essence. So we come into this earthly plane with our soul's purpose already intact. Our soul knows what it is that we have come here to do. But we can do it in many, many different ways, and likely most often we will do it in many different ways throughout our lifestyle, and throughout our lifetime. And that will depend on many different things. It will depend on the phase of life we're in. It will depend on some of the other life experiences we've had. It will depend on what is happening around us, like what is the need in the world at that time. It will depend on where our interest lies, what our energy levels are, the time that we have, the other commitments, right? The other commitments that we have going on in our lives, because Dharma, the larger concept of Dharma, involves right duty or right action in all areas of your life, right? So that includes right duty and right action towards your responsibilities. So what other responsibilities are you currently carrying in your life? And, how can Dharma support you, your personal Dharma support you in those? So this expression will change over time. It's a natural evolution, but with each new evolution and each new expression of your Dharma, you are getting a little bit closer to who you are. You are coming home to yourself in a whole new way. You are learning about yourself on a deeper level and learning about what it is that you want to contribute to the world, how you want to show up, how you want to serve. Because a big piece of Dharma is also service, service to yourself and service to others. And so we talked about the nervous system regulation piece last week, but this week I'm going to pull out an emotion that commonly stops us from taking steps towards our Dharma, right? So maybe you have no idea what your Dharma is. And so your step would be trying to investigate, right? Listening to a bunch of my episodes, downloading my free journal for discovering your Dharma, which you can find on my website. Maybe signing up for my newsletter to read on these topics. It would be maybe listening to some episodes where we're diving deep into how to discover your Dharma, right? These might be your first steps. Or maybe you have some inklings about what your Dharma is. You don't 100% have 100% clarity on what it is, but you have some feelings, some whispers, you're being pulled in some certain directions. And so for you, the first steps would be moving in one of those directions, like hearing a whisper, feeling that internal tug, and then following it, right? And both of those things, or wait, I missed one. A third one would be, what it is, right? You have clarity, you know what you came here to do, you know what your essence it needs to express, and you know how you want to express it in this particular time in your life right now. So for you, it would be taking actions towards moving to doing that thing, to actually doing that thing that you have clarity on. Each one of these things requires courage. Okay, so that's what it requires, courage. Because without action, your Dharma is simply a concept. It's a concept in your mind, it's a hope, it's a dream. But without action, it's like a piece of fruit that has ripened on the vine and then is just left there to wither, rot, and fall to the ground and decompose, right? Without action, we don't move forward. And action can be and feel really, really scary. And why is that? Why is taking small steps in a direction that we intuitively feel is right for us? Why does that feel so scary? Well, because alert, spoiler alert, human beings like certainty. And we talk about this on other episodes as well, that we are kind of biologically wired to like certainty. And because it gives us the illusion of control and safety. And I say illusion because it is an illusion. We can never possibly plan for all the variables that could show up in our lives. And so thinking that we have control by only staying within the familiar is an illusion. And so a big part of this work is to recognize that and to recognize when we are living in the trance of illusion and to make a decision to move out of the trance. But when we think about stepping outside of our comfort zone, we're often confronted with really uncomfortable emotions. We start feeling doubt, we start feeling fear, we start feeling imposter syndrome. And if you don't know what that is, I have an episode on that as well that I can link in the show notes. We start worrying we aren't good enough at whatever the thing is, that we're not worthy enough or deserving enough. We fear we don't have enough time. Maybe we're not as passionate about it as we thought we were. Maybe we think we don't have enough energy, or there's a financial risk that's involved, and we're concerned about that financial risk. And while we might be excited about an idea, because of all these things, because of this fear of loss of control and safety and not feeling good enough and not knowing an outcome, what is this going to look like, right? If I take this step, what is it going to look like in the end? We don't have an answer to that in the beginning, and that feels very destabilizing. Fears about not enough time, money, passion, all of these things cause us to lose our excitement about maybe starting the process of uncovering our Dharma, or playing around with what we think our Dharma is, or actually stepping into it. We get excited, we start planning, we make goals, and then we never take action. We never move forward because we're waiting for something, and we're waiting for the feeling of, I'm ready to do this, right? We want that certainty. We want to feel that we're ready. We want to look around us and find evidence to confirm that we are ready, that this is a good idea, that we are good enough. Um, and I totally get this. Okay. So, when I started this podcast, this was so scary for me. I intuitively felt that this is what I was meant to do. I had that strong, after a lot of soul searching and time and work leading up to that. But eventually, when I got to the point where I felt like this was right for me at this particular stage of my life and how my essence wanted to express itself, I was petrified. Who was I to do this? I had never had a podcast. I didn't go to podcasting school. I didn't know anyone who ran a podcast that I could reference for either questions or for support in saying, yes, you are good enough, right? You can do this. I didn't know any of the logistics, like the technical components, or how to grow an audience, or what I was going to talk about that was going to feel meaningful to people, that people felt like they really, really resonated with them and they really wanted to hear about. I mean, there were so many unknowns, and it was so scary to start taking steps forward into the unknown, into the abyss. It was like walking through a door into complete and utter darkness and not knowing what was in there. Was the room empty? Was it full of furniture? Were there knives all over the place? I don't know. Like, it was just it was like blind. I was blind. And so that is so, so scary. But here is the truth of the matter. If I had waited for that I'm ready feeling, if I had waited to gather evidence and data that I was good enough, that the show would be successful, that I would have enough time to do it, that I knew enough, about the subject matter to do it, all of these things, then I would never have done it. I wouldn't be talking to you today. I wouldn't have 103. I think this is my 103rd episode. I wouldn't have met all the amazing people I've met along this journey. I wouldn't have learned everything that I have learned, um, because I would have been permanently in a holding pattern of waiting to know with certainty that what I was about to do was going to be successful and that I was going to be good at it. And the truth is that courage is something that we create. It is not something that comes to us. It is something we create. And it is created by taking action. It is created by stepping into fear and deciding to act even though you are scared. So courage is not the absence of fear. It is action taken even though you are fearful. And each little step that you take, each new action, each new thing that you learn, each new experience that you have will begin to prove to you that you are good enough, that this is what's right for you, that you are capable, that there is enough time and money. And what it will also do is to give you data. So I could have started this podcast and hated it, right? That's the simple fact. And I would have stopped it if I did. But the simple truth is that we don't know if we're going to love something until we try it. And that's true in so many areas of our lives. And we tend to be a little more liberal in other areas of our lives. So maybe you think you're going to love this TV show and you watch a couple episodes of it and you're like, nah, that's not for me. Or maybe you go to a restaurant, everybody says it's fantastic. You go and you're like, I don't know what these people are raving about. Like, this food is not that good. I'm not going back. Maybe it's a book you start and a couple chapters in, you say, no, that's not for me. Maybe it's spiritual practices. We talk all the time about different spiritual practices on this show and how not every practice is for every person, right? Maybe you try some form of a practice and you realize, no, that's not for me. But when it comes to stepping into our purpose, people tend to place so much more emphasis on the failure, right? That fear of failure. So if you start a book and a couple chapters in, you don't like it and you decide not to finish it, that's a low stakes risk, right? We don't feel particularly guilty or like we're a failure because we didn't finish the book. We just simply didn't like it. That's it. We just simply didn't like it. Or a new food. We just simply don't like it. That's it. We don't need to explain it to anybody. We don't need to rationalize it. We don't need to make excuses. We just don't like it. And I really encourage you to take the same mindset and attitude when it comes to finding your Dharma, to discovering your Dharma. Clarity comes from action, right? We don't get clarity until we act. We often want the reverse. We want clarity and then we want to take action. But the simple truth is that's just not how life works. Life works by taking action. And then from that action, we get data or information, which brings us clarity, right? And it might not bring the whole picture into focus all at once. We might take one step, and in that step that we collect some data, we get to know ourselves a little bit better. We get to know what we like and what we don't, what's resonating with us and filling us up and making us feel, like we're in flow and like we're the best versions of ourselves. And we take that information and we move forward with the next step and we get a little more clarity, right? The picture starts coming into focus just a little bit more. And if we can do that with a mindset of playfulness, of curiosity, of investigation, then it doesn't feel so scary. It doesn't even require quite as much courage because we're not putting that kind of pressure and weight on it. It still takes courage to step outside of your comfort zone. It's just the way it is, especially us fully formed adult brains. We tend to take even, it requires even more courage for us to do things different, to switch things up, to change habits and routines and behaviors and thought patterns. But coming at it with a playful attitude of curiosity, of investigation. I'm just going to see what happens. And if I don't like it, I can just leave it behind. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't need to be concerned about not liking something because even if I don't like it, then I've learned. I've learned about myself. I've learned more about myself, and I've collected more data in this process of trying to find my Dharma. Another way to think about this is the concept of the two-way door. And this is a concept I read about in a book by Sunil Gupta called Everyday Dharma. And basically, the concept is that most decisions in our lives are two-way doors. Some decisions are a one-way door, meaning when you walk through that door, there is no going back, right? The decision to have a child is a one-way door, right? You were not a parent. You made the decision to have a child. You are a parent. You will always and forever be a parent. There's no going back through that door. Your life has permanently changed. But two-way doors are decisions that you can make. You can walk through the door and look around, experience the new room that you're in, and then say, yes, I love it. I want to stay here. Or nope, and turn around and walk right back through that door to your old self and your old life and your old habits, behaviors, people, all the things. So I want you to look at this process of uncovering your Dharma as a process of two-way doors. Each step that you take, whether you're in that first phase of just listening to the podcast, downloading the journal, maybe booking a discovery call with me, right? Those are two-way doors. You can do any and all of those things, and you can decide, no, thank you. Actually, this is not for me, and turn right around and go back through the door again. Same with if you're a little bit further ahead and you have some inklings of what you're being pulled and drawn to, what your essence is, and how it wants to be expressed at this stage of your life. Take steps towards doing that in a way that feels comfortable and like a two-way door for you, where you can dip your toe into the waters of what you think your Dharma is and how it wants to be expressed, and then decide if the temperature is good for you and you want to fully plunge into the pool, or you want to quickly pull your toe back because it's too hot or too cold, right? And take those opportunities and look at it as a two-way door because it feels scary and it feels risky. But in reality, almost every decision you make in your life is reversible. There really are very few choices we make in life that are not reversible. And when we choose to not go through the door, then we leave behind all that could be behind that door, right? So it's not just, okay, I go through the door and yes, actually I do love this and this is something that I want to keep moving forward with, or no, I don't. I want to go backwards. There's also what comes from going through the door. So not just the thing that you anticipated would come, right? Not just the experience of whatever the action is that you took, but the fallout of all that action, right? Who you meet, what other experience you have because you took that first step, what you learned, um, what other experience is related to that experience that you then go on to have. So there are so many possibilities, as Deepak Chopra would say, infinite possibilities that come from taking aligned action, from taking action that stems from your deepest self, from your inner knowing. There's a term, a Sanskrit term for this, it's called Kriya. And so in spiritual communities, there's a lot of talk about being, right? Not always doing, but being able to be present, be aware, be connected, not necessarily constantly being in action. But Kriya is action, but it is action that stems from the deepest parts of who we are. It is soul-aligned action. And so as long as you are taking soul-aligned action, it will guide you on this journey. It will open doors. You will meet people. You will come across things that you never heard of in your life. You will be a step forward. Even if you decide to go back through the door, even if you decide that that particular action was not the right one for you, didn't feel aligned once you did it, you got that data, that information, that clarity, so much more will come from that, I promise you. You just have to be willing to act without certainty. So that's the two-way door. The other thing that I encourage you to do in this process is a tiny contract. So we talk about making these decisions and taking these aligned actions, but sometimes it's hard, right? We have the intention to do it, and maybe we do it once or twice, and then life, right? Life gets in the way. We're busy. We have a lot of things on our plates. And it requires courage each time, right? So when I started this podcast, it didn't just take one act of courage to decide to start a podcast. It took an act of courage every single day for a really long time. And it still takes acts of courage. It feels a little easier now than it did in the beginning, but it's a continuous act of courage to keep showing up in this way that feels soul aligned for me, but yet also feels really scary. And so sometimes the energy required to get over that fear, to muster up that courage, can prevent us from being consistent with taking the actions we need to take. So I encourage you to create a tiny contract, which means that you will promise yourself, and you can even write it down on a piece of paper and sign it as if it were a real contract, that you will engage in this activity for a certain period of time. And you can decide what that is. Maybe it's every day for a month. Maybe it's once a week for 3 months. Whatever feels good to you, whatever feels manageable and reasonable and gives you enough time to see the courage that comes from action, right? Because the first time we do something, the second time, the third time, the courage doesn't show up right away. The clarity doesn't show up right away. It takes repetition. It takes creating the new neural pathways. It takes experience and feedback from the experience. And so we have to make a deal with ourselves, right? We have to make this contract with our soul that we will take repetitive soul aligned action in the face of fear. And then I love this other idea that also came up in the Everyday Dharma book by Sunil Gupta. And it's not his concept, it was a priest. He heard it from a priest. But it's the idea of living according to a map or living according to a compass. And so when we live, which I think most of us have done throughout our lives, according to a map gives us directions. It tells us, go straight, okay, then make a left, go straight 2 more miles, make a right, go straight another mile, get on the on-ramp to this highway, right? And so if you think about someone who, let's say, wants to become a doctor, they would use a map. They would say, okay, I need to get good grades in high school, then I need to get into a really good college, also do really well, then I need to take my MCAT and do well on that and apply to medical school, so on and so forth. So there are steps to be taken to move them in the direction of the goal that they are seeking. That is very different than living by a compass. When we live by a compass, each step is reorienting us. So if we want to move towards our true north, we look down at the compass, we find where north is, and we take a step in that direction. And we keep stepping in that direction based on where the compass is pointing. So we don't know how long that's going to be. We don't know if we're going to need to make a left or a right, or because obstacles will be in our way, right? Rivers, mountains, lakes, seas. we don't know really exactly how we're going to get to our destination, and maybe we don't even know what our destination is, but we trust our compass and we just take one step in faith and in courage in the direction that we think we want to go. But we also understand that that direction could change at any time, and it's okay. That we're allowed to pivot. We're allowed to decide that something doesn't serve us anymore and that we want something else. That's why, Dharma isn't a particular job title or role that you play in your life. That's why it's so much deeper than that, and more meaningful than that, and more fluid than that. So again, we're in midlife here, right? This is the Midlife Purpose Project. And in midlife, everything shifts and changes. Bodies, minds, desires, hopes, dreams, goals. And Dharma gives us the freedom to do the pivoting that is required in this stage of life and find where we were meant to be here and now, right? Not where we were meant to be 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or where we thought we should be, but where we are meant to be here and now, and what we are meant to be doing here and now. So try to imagine living your life according to a compass instead of a map. Our goal is always just one thing, always just one thing, and that's moving closer to who we are and how we want to show up in this world. So I encourage you to move forward in the face of fear, find the courage and the clarity that comes from action. Remember that it's most likely a two-way door that you're going through, and that by going through that door, you will collect so much information and open yourself up to so many more potential experiences that will give you clarity about who you are and what you want. And create that tiny contract. Make yourself accountable and responsible for your destiny. This is your life, your one and only life here and now. No one's going to create it for you. No one is going to make it the way your soul wants it to be. Only you can do that. Only you can create the life that feels meaningful, joyful, aligned, impactful, filled with peace and awe, love, wonder, connection. Only you can do that. So take those steps, create that contract, and know that you can always walk back through the door. Right? I love you, my friends. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery here at the Midlife Purpose Project. I hope today's conversation sparked something deep inside of you, made you laugh, or reminded you that you are never alone. Remember, it's never too late to reconnect with your soul's purpose and live a life of meaning. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the show, or share it with someone who could use a little inspiration. It really helps the show reach more women and helps me keep the content ad-free. Join me next time as we continue to explore what it means to live with purpose in midlife.